at least this looks, I mean, it's still, I guess, sort of awful. But I'll take a pawn on b7 and you have some double pawn something. But let's just see if you go 95, 93, can I do something else? Maybe knight c7, knight a8 is also very strong.
Ooh.
So you take on a8, I take on b7. I guess rook c8 check.
Yeah.
And then I collect the pawn on e6.
Oh wow, and you guard e2 in the process.
Yes.
Man, you're really good, Ricky.
Nobody's disagreeing with that statement.
But that's a serious problem, right? Even in lines, we're talking about lines where white is choosing between, you know, clear advantage, opposite code bishop oddness, or just a forcing endgame where a rook and two pawns. I mean, that's potentially just, you know, crushing at the end of a line like that with bishop takes a6, because these two pawns are going to be very difficult.
Yeah. It comes back to this question. I mean, I know that bishop e7 is supposed to be slow for exactly this reason. Right. And he plays it and then he takes on d4, which is, I mean, you expect some very clever follow-up and nothing came, and then it just went back.
Okay, so to selfishly try to understand it, may or may not have lost games on the black side of this repertoire. I'm just asking for a friend, not for me. Where was black supposed to go better? Because, like, this is a game where he's getting destroyed, and I may or may not have played this opening as black and also felt this way. So what's the move here?
I mean, I remember that Karyakin was playing a lot of games with the queen c7.
Okay.
And then if you go d4, I think his thing was to go b6.
And so back to this line with bishop f4.
And then you go bishop d6.
And there's no knight e5 in these lines, so takes.
Well, I go bishop b7, I guess. Oh, okay, here knight e5.
But I guess now you can just slide.
Well, I can go rook a7.
Knight c6.
Rook c7.
Somehow black is holding this game. It's very awkward setup.
Yeah, well, I mean, white usually can go rook d1, you go queen c7 back, and then dc5, queen c5, white gets an e4, this sort of thing, and white keeps a small edge. But I mean, that's how I recollect this line. Isn't that what? Aren't these the moves? I haven't played this line in a while. I played a sort of topical line with Anish, which was instead of knight c3, d4.
Right on move 8.
Yeah, and then the point was I went b5, knight e5, knight d5, takes on d5, takes d7, bishop d7, d5, bishop c6, passes d4. When I equalize easily, but black is supposed to have
So
I'll show you a funny line. White can go something like b4 here. I go a5. Well, you can do that now or later. So knight d2, ab4, and knight b3. And the point is now this d4 pawn is weak. So of course, what you do is d3. And then you take everything, and then you put a rook on a4 and go king d7, bishop e7, rook f8. It's supposed to be quite good. I remember some idea like this.
something like
The details are hazy, and they're probably details, but well, not right. You can wait for bishop d2 to play things. You can play bishop e7 or king d7 first. You can start with queen d5, f3, and then play d3. So, you know, there are options there and that. But basically, this is supposed to be a good compensation.
Try to develop. I'm getting so much better at chess.
But again, once again, I have to say,
It currently offers a clear advantage for Jan Nepomniachtchi, the tournament leader, and potentially the first winner here in round 10. This is a very, very precarious position right now for Alexienko, where white is clearly better, and a lot of it stems from the lines that she is showing us, where after knight to c3 was already much more critical than Alexienko considered. Needed to play moves like queen c7 potentially. Even rook a7 here is probably better than the simple bishop e7. And shockingly on d4 as the position opens up, black is already in a, I mean, this isn't lost, right? But this is just so much worse than you would ever want to have, especially in a tournament like this.
Yeah, and everything's wrong in this Catalan. That bishop on g2 is basically stopping the black queen side from developing. White just makes natural. I mean, Jan hasn't made one great move so far. It's rook fd1, bishop e3, rook c1, and his position's overwhelming. I mean, it's something. It's just way too easy. And like I know Karyakin's played games with queen c7, d4, b6, this kind of things. So for sure, I'm.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, this is one game that's happening, and it looks to be very scary. And again, the person I was asking for, my friend, just got a lot better just by understanding how critical this particular position is, the move order that occurs here in this kind of neo-Catalan, and really important to appreciate the emphasis on the right syllable here with the queen side, bc7 before bishop e7. All right. I didn't believe Robert when he was sitting here saying that black was already, a really tough spot. I'm like, Robert, you're just over exaggerating, but he was right.
Yeah, especially now when the position is, you can see Alexienko, he's burning time. His position is not very good. He's trying to make knight c4 work. It's the only real aggressive option that he has to do something. And if you can make it work, it's kind of a miracle. But that bishop on g2, all the white pieces in the perfect position. I would be
By the way, it's not that I see anything after knight c4, bishop g5 as well. So it's.
Yeah, bishop g5 is like a simple response, and all of a sudden knight d5 is even more dangerous, especially of course if you take your first and you start winning material.
Yeah.
This is a problem. Wow. Well, Alexienko is probably going to be right here for the better part of the next hour, so we'll just let him sit tight, and we'll come back to this, everybody, and look at the other four boards. Alexienko has a lot to think about to dig himself out of this hole. Obviously, Vishy, you've been following the other games, right? We had this interesting aggressive c5 move from Vache Legrave. That position is headed toward an interesting middle game. Then we've also got the deep Spanish theoretical battle between Fabiano Caruana and Ding Li Ren in the upper left. So would you have a flavor you'd like to partake in?
I mean, I'm guessing that Maxime and Anish about equal now. I don't know how white is going to be in time with this two bishop thing. So bishop b7 and Fabi against Ding is very specific. I mean, they've tried knight b4, they've tried knight takes a5, and then Ding has gone queen c8. So I think
over to that game. We'll switch over here.
Yeah, I think they have gone quite deep, and this is already some middle game preparation to avoid some minor catastrophe and so on.
Indeed. C5 is played.
Yeah, the thing is, right, black just stole a pawn, but Vishy, I don't know what your experience is like in these positions, but I figured that at the top level, white is to be preferred here, just the control over many of the important squares. But what do you make of this position after c5?
Yes, but it's a pawn. So, and also there's not that much left. I mean, DC, the danger for white is that black starts liquidating quite fast. But white has some very nice moves here. You can play knight e5. Yes. I mean, I'll go knight c6. c4, I'll try some d4. I mean, just to double check, after dc5, there is no. Can I do something like clever like knight d7? Knight d4, yeah.
That's an interesting one, just because the pawn is pinned. But I guess I just played
knight d4 is just. Yeah.
Or knight d4, yeah. All right.
Okay, so dc5, dc5. I mean, white has the composition, but black also has knight c6, knight b4, something like that. Unless Fabi has some very specific line, and we know that he has very specific lines these days, then my hunch is this is not huge for white. But
instead of trading on c5, is there any e5 possibilities as well? I mean, there's so many pins and loose pieces that I'm trying to make some.
Okay, so let's try e5. I go d5, what are you doing?
Knight takes.
Then let me go knight d5. So now I've covered this.
Yeah, I'm just worried that now, I like the position, and I'm now worried we're going to be down a pawn and suffering. And at some point, you'll probably play c4.
So white tends to have enough competition. I don't see white losing, but is he better is more the question.
Right, like rook ac1 to continue the theme of the pin, but you can even play c4, I think.
Yeah, I mean, but okay, worst case scenario, I guess you're trading everything. You're winning it all back, and black is going to be strapped with a couple of pawns.
Yeah, but then black has e6 and a6, which could be something to exploit. So
yes, but I mean, he said maybe that's like, hey, if obviously if he finds all the best moves, type of variation white's going for, and
okay, Fabi has played e5, so I guess we know. And did Bishop take an R for take d4?
Okay, so let's back out.
I'm starting to bounce back and forth like this, but
yeah,
I checked earlier and then I checked now, and it's only the minute.
Yeah, 19 minutes of it.
Wow.
Yeah, Grishik is well, we were waiting for the vintage game where Grishik would spend a lot of time, and indeed he delivers. Does not disappoint.
Yes, I assume he didn't like f takes e5, d takes e5, and he didn't see anything else.
I busted. Show me your ass, please.
This cannot say. 420 Fox Depot. Who is this? Who is Brian? Brian, thank you for the 40.
You dumb poppin. Your face looks like a quadrilatch.
Robert and I were looking at crazy lines that included f takes e5 and meaning knight takes e6 e4.
Yes.
Just based on the simple tactic that you can't take. So it's got 2 and 4.
Wait, so I play knight takes f8 and you want to play knight takes?
Oh, it's take here. I thought I could take this for 23.
Then I go queen d4 check. Well, so let's see. Queen d5 check. King f8. No, king f8. King e8.
Okay, I thought that didn't work. So
no, but maybe king e8 holds. Also, there is king h8, which suddenly, because bishop c4, you play knight f6. If I go knight d7, you play queen b2, and there's a queen f2 in the air. So that's slightly annoying.
Knight d7, queen b2. And if bishop is c4, you now have the knight f6 move, both attacking and defending g8. this is nuts. Maybe there was a lot to think about, right? He did take on d4,
Yeah.
so certainly Wang Hao is now gonna be sure about tactics. But I have a feeling if we're justifying the amount of time Grishik spent, it's probably in the sharpest of variations in these types of
F5. Maybe F5 works, but it's okay. So let's try knight takes e6.
Right,
D4. So what can I do? I can also play bishop f2.
Right.
Well, okay, then you can try knight f6, knight takes f8, knight e4.
Yeah, this was the kind of thing I was thinking that it might get really wild, but maybe just unnecessary.
Well, if you're going to do it, you should look confident.
I rarely look confident. But okay, this is okay. But let's just go with your move instead of my crazy stack. Rook f6 or rook e8, and
Yeah, but there'll be crazy sacks anyway. I don't know, bishop c4.
yeah,
If you play knight a5, I go bishop d5, rook e6, f5. But then you could play knight f6, and maybe you just have good composition.
yeah.
Actually, I like black's position.
Like this. I don't have to take e6. I can.
And then you have knight c4, and yeah, all this doesn't look good.
So maybe it's just bishop c4.
Ah, that one, I thought the other one. Well, just to...
As Bishop said, be confident. Bring those pieces.
Be confident, right?
Yeah, but maybe the other one, because we actually threatening bishop c4 check.
Yeah,
This doesn't look clear. I mean, unless you've checked it, I don't think it's clear for black at all.
No, I'm just confused. I just saw you went through the other line. It didn't work out. So if bishop c4 first doesn't work, then knight g5 like the second option.
Yeah.
yeah. Looking at the line again, everyone. We're looking at one of the sharpest options. Perhaps Wang Hao is deep in thought about variations like this. I'm still not sold that simple rook e8 isn't better, and then meet bishop c4 with like a king h8 was my idea. Just put the king away and just see what happens here. Or maybe white is getting castled and everything's fine. Actually, I don't know.
Wait, if you castle like a knight a5,
Right.
that's my castle.
Yeah, but why did the king go to h8 in the first place? After bishop c4, because you
I should have played this right away.
Yeah.
Aha. Yeah, and bishop d5 again. We have knight f6. I think we've had this a few times.
Yeah.
Danger of keeping your king in the center.
So now you can do knight c7 check, knight d5 or something, but the light squares are going to bother you. Queen c6.
This would be a lot of fun, even if I'm just playing a simple move. Well, it's wild. I mean, we were just talking about setting the tone for what happens in these positions and just saying, at some point in these French variations, black has to act quickly before white makes a couple simple moves, and the position is sort of overwhelming. And so...
But if knight takes d4, what about bishop c5? That pauses matters here, while I can bring the next one up.
I always get worried about just the d4 shot at this stage. Maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, so b4, I can't play knight b4 because we'll probably play the full one.
Yeah, we'll point out that, but rook b1 is good. Okay.
Yeah, so you can play bishop takes d4, knight takes d4, and this does look strong for white.
right? I mean, I feel like the difference is we've lost the tactical option more because without the dark bishop, white is just taking everything. There are no threats.
Yeah, this looks. So wait, can you go back to that knight takes b4 line though for a second? Can you? So bishop c5 there, b4.
Oops.
And then you want to start with fe5 or something?
Well, yeah, and then go a5. So knight takes b4. Then knight takes b4.
Wait.
Knight b4.
Oh, knight b4. Okay, rook b4.
Yeah, f5. You get to take the knight.
Yeah.
Yeah, take on e5. F takes e5. No, e5. How does this work?
But I just go. I go e3.
Oh, is it that simple?
Also, can I go cb4, bishop b4, rook b4, ab4, bishop d3? I mean, I've got my blockade. e3 and d4. Bishop d3.
Yeah.
Must be.
I was uncomfortable with the other line, so I figured if I could try to lick. Well, I would probably trade queens, I guess, instead of queens on. But either way, I was trying to
활과 화살이
transform the
준비돼.
position at least where one had black.
내 매력을 거부하지.
셀레메네님의 이름으로.
Well, critical moment.
새로운
Driving
달이 떠올라.
longhouse position here. We got a lot to figure out.
And Nepo has actually played bishop g5. Just for, I mean, we don't have to pitch out there. But I'm just mentioning.
Okay, so knight c4, bishop d5 can play the game. We're just tuning in. We have a tournament leader in Yanda Pamiyashi who might be up to extensive lead over real Alexi and Sosa. All 4 games still in progress here in round 10. Competing with us here. Always be here. It's Mishi Inan. Okay, well, we haven't checked in. We haven't checked in the well, really the NBL Geary game, or the Caruana Jamie Ren game. If you want to give us your thoughts there. Jump around.
Let's go to MVL versus Geary since we were on the Fabiano game a little while ago.
Okay. So bishop g5, Robert, kind of similar to what we talked about, but even in a more tricky fashion, played before the rook comes to d8 as a means to prevent further ganging up. And Maxime is keeping enough confusion here, enough tension alive, to not make it so simple for Geary to gang up on the d-pawn.
Yeah, but if I play f6, this bishop is out of the game. It has no more, no way to influence the queen on d6 or. That's why I was thinking instead of bishop g5, somehow a4 with the idea of b3. Maybe that's just slow.
Not arriving in time.
Yeah.
Robert and I were looking at more ideas like this after rook d8 to gain a tempo and try to induce something like f6 and then come back to some positions with tactic here. And still have a5 ideas.
이 순간
But if I play king h8, I'm still not ready to take over.
But you might be threatening to play rook d7 and rook d8 and then put all your pieces on the d5 pawn.
Yeah.
What's interesting in Vishy, I would like your opinion on this. Anish could have played for b5, but he chose to play for b6. So how, when you're...
I didn't get that as well. I thought b5 was likely. Maybe the problem after b5 is bishop b3, bishop b7, and then if I go rook d1, there's potential for bishop e3 and ac1. And, just white will probably just win and get
Yeah, it seemed like both were options. How do you wade through the complications there and choose? Because at least by the eval bar on the screen, it seems like both are about equivalent. So how do you go about choosing in a position like this?
it's just b5 makes me slightly uncomfortable. So unless I'm winning a pawn, I would prefer b6 as well, because b6 keeps this dark square control. And if you see that b3 bishop a3 isn't happening, then that's all you need. It's sort of how I would think it, but then I would start to see if I can find something more specific. But
셀레메네님의 이름. 활과 화살이 준비되어. 셀레메네님의 이름.
Really good and solid approach. It was a strange opening, this early c5 move. And do you think this is what Maxime was aiming for? Because when you play c5, it's more or less.
Maybe it's one of these little lines that Maxime keeps in case he's surprised, but he could hardly be surprised by Gary's second festival. So, I mean, it's not like there's some clear idea where you're better, so you might as well better to play some small surprise. I mean, also we saw with Fabi. I don't think he refuted the knight off, but he. I think these days the effect of a small surprise is much bigger than having very detailed analysis.
An interesting way to play it, especially considering that a lot of the mainline prep isn't necessarily delivering you with an advantage anyway, so the practical opportunity to surprise your opponent might be worth it.
Sure.
And yeah, at this point in time, Leash on the clock, down over 20 minutes. Still has 22 moves to go to the time control. What do you think his plan is going to be? My logical moves that scream to me: can't play rookie. How difficult would you say it is?
I don't think it's difficult. I mean, after f6, I like. Oh, he's played b5 now. So I don't understand what's going on. But anyway, I really like this move f6, and then I don't see big danger because now that bishop is stuck on h4.
I like that idea too. It feels very like.
Yeah, the only question is, can maybe white go queen d f5 and try bishop d3, and then maybe queen f7, h7 is unpleasant. Maybe that's what bothers him.
Yeah, possibly. That would make sense, because otherwise f6 is such a nice strategic concept that frees out the bishop.
Okay, so he's playing b5,
Yep.
which is clever. Bishop b3, and if you go
a5?
yeah, I would guess.
A4 for the white.
And then rook a4.
Oh wow. Am I switching? You know I get excited about that.
You might.
But then there's knight b5, right? And I'm coming to d5.
This is a nice idea. Yeah. Coming into the d4 square.
So you play bishop g3?
활 있습니다.
This looks uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's starting to get a little more awkward by the moment. I mean, b5 kind of makes sense in the sense that it essentially says, I'm no longer worried about the c5 square, which was one of the risks before, why we said he played b6 with the bishop over here, but as far as the follow-up, it's not clear.
Play knight a6.
Knight a6.
Ah.
Now this is getting slightly inexplicable to me. Although okay, even what's he playing? Obviously not c5.
Mine is very good for white. You still can't play rook d8 and play f6 as you mentioned, you f5 down. So is this an admission of error though? If he plays b5 now rather than playing b5 earlier, he could have done that. It seemed less problematically, or is the bishop being on h4 rather than on c1, h6?
Well, it's clearly quote unquote exploiting bishop h4 because he then plays b5 so that white no longer has bishop d2 or bishop d3. But there didn't seem to be much there in both cases.
Right.
And now after bishop b3, knight a6, it's actually quite a bit faster for white.
Yeah, something just feels really odd here. I mean, the bishop on h4 is suddenly a real thorn.
Yeah, I wanted to go queen e3 here.
Yeah.
And if knight c5, then I have bishop e7, queen e7, d6. Unfortunately, there's queen g5. So,
Would be a very nice tactic.
yeah,
Not for those
but,
pesky
queen
kids.
g5.
You would have gotten away with it. Not for those pesky kids. Okay, this one was like you said.
Yeah, and knight c5 because
A5 was possibly a threat to all 4 f6.
okay, so let's try rook a c8.
Your queen e3 move looks pretty decent.
Yes, I wanted to play e4 and knight d3, but if you start with queen e3, then I messed up there.
Yeah, and now you actually have threats of bishop f5 and d4.
Oh, sorry, then rook a c8, there was bishop f5 as well, excuse me. It's just nonsense.
Yeah, maybe just right away.
That must be plus, yeah.
Although there's 90, maybe 96.
96?
Well, I was helped. I saw the eval bar drop to about even. I have to move. How could it be even?
Okay.
That's an odd move, but I guess it works. It's kind of like Yuri's King 3 though. It's like, wait, an engine is influencing the game. 96 is a super odd choice, but it actually is super strong because if you get one more move, you're finally arriving on the square that you've been hoping for.
Yeah.
It's actually really funny. 96. It's been fun. Okay, well, we're in the position after knight a6, and MBL has sat down as we saw and is in think on how to expose the awkwardness of black's position, which seems more realistic than it was previously.
But I could go bishop c2 in that position. So rook a c1, knight c5, bishop c2, and then if rook c8, I have queen f5 still. So it's not like we've actually refuted that.
Right.
So let's go with rook a1 for the moment. Anish has to. Well, Anish could start with rook c8. That's all.
Yeah, that's actually.
And there's also rook c4 tickling that bishop. And
Yeah, this is a very accurate move order there. Let's look at c8.
But that move, that move order is super clever. It can make all the difference. Queen e3, your idea from before, can just go for that again.
but then knight c5.
And bishop c2.
Yeah, back to this idea.
Oh, can I play f5? Is that possible, or is it just too much?
I mean, I think this is the sharpest way this game goes, and I love it.
Well, I see the positioning blocks in huge trouble, so I'm playing f5. Give myself
Maybe knight a8. Okay, and then let me play bishop.
Let's not forget a7 is hanging. Don't
Yeah.
you forget.
I guess I can't get rid of g5. too much. But at some
g5,
point-
rook c6.
Oh, wow.
That is just gorgeous.
Puzzle rush.
So Vishy at least told us what his threat is. Wow.
That's so nice of you, Vishy.
Okay, Maxime is actually doing something more sophisticated. Queen e2 is clever. But now I have the feeling I can play knight c5, king takes b5, take on b3, and it'll be not easy for white.
Yes, king queen too. She's going for the b5 pawn. Putting pressure on e5. At some point. How do you defend
유비, 저는 먹으십니다.
Fucking go back to c7.
So I'm guessing knight c5 and just give up the b5 pawn and get opposite card bishop. That's the intention.
Yes, but I could also play bishop c2 still.
Yeah, this is looking trickier for an defense.
Queen d5 is awkward. I mean, it's easy to say it's opposite color bishops and I've bailed out with a pawn, the loss of a pawn, but it's hard to see most for black.
Yeah. Something is going wrong here, as they say.
It looks that way to
Well, wouldn't this be a turnaround? A guy that has really been struggling to find his form, not just in this event, but this year didn't have a great pot of skill. But Vichy, one of the storylines that has been brought up by multiple staff members, including Robert on the yesterday's show, is that the year that Fabiano won the candidates, he had a terrible pot of steel. Let me ask you, as a top player, does sometimes you feel the benefit of having struggled with your form or feeling like you're not playing bad, you're not playing good chess, puts you on edge in a way that kind of, once you find it, really makes you feel better because you're sort of playing chess a little bit skeptical of your own thought process, and does that make you better in some ways when you've been struggling?
Well, definitely in a lot of moments when I was really concerned about my chess, the comebacks have been very, very good and very pleasurable. But sometimes you can come back a tournament late, and that's the danger. So
Right.
it's nice if you time it well. I mean, before the candidates, before the Hunty candidates in 14, I was having a disastrous year. I mean, including losing the title, but also for months before.
Right.
And before the Moscow candidates, I had disaster in Gibraltar, and then I sort of managed to play better, much better in the candidates. So it can happen, and he may just been unable to focus on these other events.
Is there something
He's been struggling for much longer. I think maybe it's even more shock to Maxime that he doesn't do so well in Blitz and Rapid. I mean, he really feels that's his territory, and I think it affected him that last year he's just not done very well in this last event, which you would expect to favor him.
Yeah. Is there sometimes on the outside looking in, there's the speculation, obviously a guy who's never prepared chess at the level you have, that sometimes tournaments before, whether it's the candidates or the World Championship, are awkward. There's something you think that you're avoiding things. Are you avoiding any prep, or is at this point all the events are, there's so much at stake, the prize money, the level of chess is so high that is that an overrated storyline by commentators and spectators that you are avoiding open prep before the candidates in the World Championship, or is that a real thing, and does that lead to any sort of awkwardness in terms of why you might not be on form if we're talking about Maxime and Tata Steele, for example?
Yes, I mean, before my World Championship with Kramnik, I was playing e4, but I was trying my best not to show that I was playing d4 in Bonn, and I think the storyline is dated nowadays. Nowadays, with computers being what they are, I think Rishik once summed it up best. He said, "You can't store anything for the future. You just play your move, and that's it." I mean, his point literally was, "I'll find something tomorrow, but I can't be preserving stuff." And I thought he was right.
Yeah, and somebody who is in good form here, and I guess less question about preserving stuff. He played c4. You said he has played it, of course, in his repertoire, but much more rarely than an e4. Dan, if we switch to the Nepo game against Stoyanko, because that one seems to be nearing its conclusion as look at John's bishop and queen h7 house, and Normally you block that with G6. Can't do that here.
Is it really going to end before move 25? Is that what we're in store for here?
You're dropping H7, which leads to an attack coming in addition to a pawn dropping. How can you survive? I see nothing. And Vision, what can this do for you?